AI filmmaking is finally taking off. So as a starting point to dive deeper into this world, I thought, why not create a fake commercial for a product I was excited about, but that never saw the light of day? The Apple car. I made this entire thing in one day, and in this video I'm going to walk you through every single AI tool and process I used, step by step. So if you're new to AI filmmaking, this might be a good entry point. But first, time for a little ad break.
What do you do with the space between where you are and where you want to be? For centuries, we filled that space with driving. But what if that space could be yours? This isn't about getting there. It's about what happens in between.
I hope you enjoyed the spec ad, and now I'm going to show you exactly how I created it. This was my first proper AI filmmaking project, so also a lot of things were new to me and I had to figure everything out. And in the process, I noticed that there's really a lack of behind-the-scenes content where people show how they created those videos. So yeah, I hope sharing some of those insights will be helpful for some of you. To get started, of course, you need to have some kind of idea. Of course, you can also use AI chatbots to help brainstorm. I already kind of knew what I wanted to create. I'm a little Apple fanboy, and I was very sad when I heard that they shut down Project Titan, or the Apple Car project. So I thought it would be cool to use AI and imagine what such an Apple Car might look like and how an Apple ad for this Apple Car would look like. So that was already my idea. But then when it came to the exact idea for the script, I turned to Claude. I gave it the following prompt: you're an award-winning creative director and scriptwriter. Always nice to give like a role, and then blah, blah, blah. Gave some information on the Apple Car and the style I wanted to go for. And I also noticed that when adding in the end, my career depends on it or something like that, that usually the results are better. And actually it was pretty decent what I already got out of it. It gave me like already the finished scripts for several ads. And I just chose the second one. I liked it. And then iterated a little bit more back and forth. And basically already had the script. Okay, then second step was to record the voiceover. What I like to do, and what I think is currently the best way on creating voiceovers, is recording it yourself and then go to the Elevenlabs voice changer to select the voice you want to have the audio played with. When you do like text-to-speech, it's sometimes very unnatural and it's very hard to get the right pacing and energy. So you can just record it yourself and then slap a voice on top. So in my case, the original recording sounded like that.
What do you do with the space between where you are?
Okay, and I knew I wanted to have a female narrative voice, so I like went through a few voices, decided for Australian Lily, and then it sounded like that.
What do you do with the space between where you are?
So that works pretty well. Then second step, when it comes to the audio, is of course choose the right music. If you want to go for the AI route, also when it comes to music, you can like choose one of the many platforms like Suno AI or Udio, or I think Google also has now their own AI music generation tool. They also work pretty well. In my case, I decided for an artless song I already had in mind called Epico. I really like the song, and the cool thing in Artless is that you already get like the different stems from the track. So it's much easier to edit the song together. And that's what I did. And that was the first step in the editing timeline. So I would say this is still the biggest gap in the market of AI tools. There's no AI editing tool that actually works. So I still edited manually in Final Cut. And yeah, as a first step, I cutted together the voiceover and the music to get the pacing, get the vibe. You can see all those different stems. So in the end, I had like a 54-second package with just the audio sorted out. And it really helps on having the structure already set for the video. And then next comes the fun part, the visuals. But as it turns out, this part is also incredibly frustrating and time consuming. Right now you have the powerful video models, and they can either do text to video, so you just write a prompt, or image to video. And if you want to have some kind of consistency, the only way to do it is by image to video. But that has the prerequisite that you get consistent images. So as the first step, what I did is I went through all the different image models and tried to generate like the base images. That already took a lot of time, but then I came out with those templates. This is for the Apple car. This is for the studio background. Then for the female, that was actually a bit of a pain. You can see here, that was the first try with Sora. Sora is not very good at doing human characters. They look very artificial. And in the end, I ended up with an image from Google Imagen. So it's really about iterating with a lot of those image models to see what works best. And this was then the baseline. And then I went through the script, thought, okay, what could be cool visuals? What could be great shots? And image by image generated them. And also this was a lot of trial and error. As you can see, this here is Midjourney alone. Each frame takes a lot of trials, and not only Midjourney, because I noticed that for each scene, there's probably one model that works best for it. For example, here, the display scene, Midjourney sucks at generating user interfaces and text that makes sense. For this, Sora is much better. But for example, having the character, imagining it in a futuristic car, Midjourney was much better than Sora. And then in the process of creating the video, Runway came out with a new image generation feature where they allowed to do references. So you could upload the different assets, and then in the prompt, like this is how it looks like reference them. So Runway really knows on how to plug it all together. And that actually worked quite well for some scenes. It didn't work well for other scenes. Like for example here, maybe you can see some of the scenes of trying to imagine the woman in the car, like this didn't work at all. So again, it was just about trying each model and see which model is best for what. This is just an experience thing. And I mean, the models are evolving every week. So you really have to constantly try each model to get a feeling on what works best. And after a while, I actually noticed that I somehow started to develop this feeling. And when I had a shot in mind, I already knew, okay, probably this shot is best for Sora, this shot is best for Runway, and then got faster over time. Once I had the images generated, I put them into the timeline. And so basically just had like a stop motion movie with not many frames to get a feeling for the pacing, get a feeling for the vibe, if it works. Here you can see I already like did one test video generation. And yeah, that just helps to reduce the amount of video generations, because video generations are the most costly part in all of this. So you really want to make sure that each frame that you generate, you really need a new video and it makes sense. And you kind of already have an idea and a vision on how it might look like. And then also for some frames, I edited them a little bit manually in Photoshop or Lightroom. For example, in the beginning frame, I had some different scenes. For example, this one I extended with the Photoshop generative AI feature. Or here, this one, I manually put in the image. Like the main image was generated in Midjourney, and it didn't work in the other image generators. But the display looked trash in Midjourney, so I generated 2 displays in Sora and then plugged them all together to get this frame. So yeah, also here it needed some manual work in certain scenes. Okay, now we have the image structure. We have all the images we need. We have them edited in a way that it works. And now the main fun part starts, and this is then generating videos out of the images. And this is actually really fun, because you, for the first time, you see all the movement and what's happening. And actually, the part of turning then the images into video works quite well. Like very often I managed to hit the shot I wanted with the first try. Sometimes it took like 2 or 3 generations, but most of the time this was pretty straightforward. The tools I used for this were mainly Kling AI, Kling 2.0. It's a Chinese model, got released like a couple of weeks ago, and works really well. It just has a great dynamic. You can reference images, it adheres very well to the prompts. And yeah, you can see here how this looks like. So for example, here, one of the driving shots, I gave in the image, this was the prompt, and then it came up with this. And the cool thing is also in Kling, you can add AI sound effects as well. For some shots, when Kling didn't really manage to do it, I tried also Google VO2 from Fel AI. but actually that never worked better than Kling. So I either returned back to Kling or I used another model. And this actually really positively surprised me, and I never heard of it before. It's called Higgsfield AI. And what they did is they didn't really train like a general video model, but they really trained it on specific shot types. Like for example, here this eyes in shot. So they have a lot of effects, which are like fun, nice to have, but they also have certain camera movements that you can easily describe. Here, basic camera control. And this makes it really powerful. If you have a certain shot, a certain movement in mind, you can like choose this effect, then also give the input image, give some prompt, and it usually nails the movement you want. This is often much harder if you just have a prompt-based input. So I was very positively surprised by Higgsfield. It's also cheaper than Kling or Google View. So for a lot of the shots, especially transitioning shots, I used Higgsfield. So for example, for the transition from the painted car to the real car, the way I did it was just like select the dolly in, so it's like a zoom shot. I selected the first frame, I selected the last frame of the video, gave a prompt on how it should morph together, and that's what it did. Okay, this one was not the final shot, but yeah, again, trial and error, but it's a pretty cool effect and something you cannot achieve without also being able to put in an end frame. I also combined several of those start-end effects for this shot. I used first this eye zoom out effect, and then second the transition effect from the studio image to the outside image, and then kind of like tied them together in Final Cut. You can see here there's a slight transition happening, but in the flow of the video, I think it kind of works. So you can extend several shots by just taking the last frame from the first video, putting it as the first frame of the next clip, and then tying clips together in a smart way. That was the video generation part. It's then just about putting it all together. Because I already had this timeline with the images, this was pretty straightforward. So I just went like image by image and then put the video on top. And of course, for some shots, I had more than a few generations. For example, this entry shot of the woman, that's never really worked. Like it always, for some reason, generated some other weird stuff in the background, no matter what I tried with the prompting, until I finally managed to get this shot. So yeah, this took a lot of tries. Some other shots also took a lot of tries. Interestingly, the last shot, I settled with the very first try that I wasn't fully happy with. And I tried like, I think 15 more generations. That was the most expensive shot of the whole video. And again, then I went back with the first shot because the other generation were just even worse. And what I did, because one thing I didn't really like about the first shot was that you can see the inside of the car, and it didn't really look like how I imagined the Apple car also in the previous shot, and you can see like the outline of the steering wheel and the car mirror. So I manually darkened the window and tracked this darkened window so you cannot really look in, and like this simple fix kind of helped to have the illusion that this is the Apple car I was talking about. So it still needs some minor tweaks here and there. Another minor tweak I did was the eye transition, because I wanted to have like this old car shot in the eye. This is also something that is really hard to directly have AI do. So I just did it manually in Final Cut and like cut it out, this shot, and also tracked it in the eye. Yeah, but I think the other shots were all straight out of camera. Not straight out of camera, straight out of AI model, straight from the server farm. Then is the last step, and this really makes a difference, is putting some other manual tweaks to it. For example, some color grading, like this is what the color looks like without. This is what it looks like with color grading. It just gave it a bit more cinematic look, also a little bit of film grain here and there. I also added like some light effects, like for example here in the intro scene, here without, here with light effect. It just gives it a bit more dynamic and makes the shot feel more as if they would belong together. And it helps in hiding that some of the shots don't really make sense if you would put them together. Yeah, that's most of it for the visual part. And then as the very last step, it's about adding sound. And this is very important. And many people, especially like beginner video creators, underestimate the power of sound. With sound effects, you can make everything so much more immersive. So as I said, you can directly use Kling AI to add sound effects to the video. I only did that with a few shots because it actually cost some more credits and it was very slow and very buggy. So I just decided I'd do it myself. I already have from old film projects a very big sound effect library locally on my Mac. So I used most of it there, but yeah, also used some extra artlists and some extra Elevenlabs sound effects. And that's it. That's how I created the video. It cost me, I haven't tracked it exactly, but roughly maybe like 100 to 120 euros in total for the AI tools and especially the video generation credits. And there you go. You have a more or less decent Apple ad. And the crazy thing to me is how fast everything is moving. I mean, I started diving a bit deeper into AI filmmaking mid-April. And since then, so much has happened. Runway had the character references. Midjourney had the Omni references. Google dropped Veo 3 and basically pushed all the other video models into insignificance. Unfortunately, Veo 3 is not really accessible yet from Europe, but I would definitely try it in my next project. Yeah, it's just crazy to see how fast everything is changing, how much everything is improving. We're really in this exponential change right now. And a lot of people don't really see that, especially a lot of filmmakers. They don't see what's coming. And I mean, obviously, this is the future of video creation. The industry as we know it today won't exist in a few years. Yes, the process is still a pain in the ass. You have to switch between a lot of tools. It still requires a lot of manual work, but the rate of change is insane. So it's not hard to imagine how this will look like in 2 to 3 years. And by then you will have perfect output that is indistinguishable from real film. And also maybe at some point in time you will be able to live generate this. And of course, this also comes with a lot of dangers. And I think TikTok and other short form platforms right now are already addicting enough. But now imagine you have your feed and live in the background, the content gets generated just for you, targeted to your mood in this exact moment. I think this is very dangerous. This is like the equivalent of digital crystal meth. But on the other hand, it's crazy how much creativity can get unleashed through this model. Like so many people with great ideas are now able to execute their creative vision. I think we'll also see an increase in great content and much more to choose from. So if all of this is a good thing or a bad thing really depends on how you view it. But I mean, the change is happening anyways, so might as well make the best out of it. And I really don't think that the human will be gone anytime soon from this process, because if there's one thing that I realized in creating this video is that the most important trait is still human taste, because all those models are good at generating a lot of different assets in a short amount of time. But you still need to have some kind of way on judging which of those assets actually works, how to tie them together in a way that it makes sense, that it touches other humans. And this is nothing that AI can do, at least yet, and I don't see it doing it in the next years. So this human taste and creative intuition, it's very important in my opinion. It will get increasingly important. And the only way to get better at this is to just create stuff. Okay, I'm gonna end it with that. Feel free to comment, like, share the video if you found it helpful, and have fun creating and exploring all these new possibilities. See you in the next one.